this is John B. with Rhine Medical. Today we're going to be discussing the new Utrata foldable lens cutter and retrieval forceps. Before we begin, we're going to be talking about the features and benefits of each one of the components of the system, followed by an actual surgical tape showing Dr. Utrata using the instruments in surgery with a damaged one-piece foldable lens. First, on the left, you see one of the snares. The snares are made of a proprietary material which is very bendable and malleable, which allows them to travel down the shaft of the cutting device with minimal resistance. Here pictured is the cutting device. It's got a button which is able to be retracted or advanced, and this button is able to be unscrewed all the way, although we do not recommend that. But I'm going to show you the components in the event that it becomes unscrewed all the way. There's an internal piece which simply slides out the back. If this were to happen, simply place it back into the tube and screw down the button. Now, in order to load one of these, you simply unscrew the button halfway and take one of the snares and feed it into the distal barrel, making sure that the knob is all the way forward and unscrewed. Feed it all the way up to where you see the snare touch the distal end of the barrel, and at this point turn the knob down and lock it into position and make sure that it's good and tight. Now you can see that the snare is in the proper position inside the cutter, and retraction of this button results in the snare being pulled into the tube. Now for the retrieval forceps, it's difficult to see, but there is a small pin right in the anterior platform which allows this instrument to grab onto a lens fragment without slipping. The jaws are slightly impregnated with a set of grooves. However, this pin at the top of this platform allows a very sure grip of the lens optic and haptics. Now I'm going to be showing to you the recommended procedure involving slicing a damaged three-piece foldable lens. In this case, it's a silicone optic. Dr. Utrata will be showing the procedure for a one-piece foldable lens later on in the tape. However, the procedure is to fill the chamber with plenty of viscoelastic and to get the haptic outside of the incision. And once the haptic is outside of the incision, it's possible to weave the snare around the left side of the haptic in this fashion. So you want to go around the left side of the optic. And once in that position, you begin to retract the snare. It's possible to use a secondary instrument through the side port during this procedure as well. Now here we've got a hold of the optic, and you'll want to get the snare around the middle axis of the optic in order to get a good clean fracture. At this point, you simply retract the button and the snare slices the lens right down the middle, and you want to go fairly slowly here, although the optic will be in a pool of viscoelastic. Now you can see that that was a nice clean fracture. We do recommend that one snare be used per lens, which will require that the snares be replaced for the next time that a lens needs to be explanted. Now we're introducing here the retrieval forceps with the pin in the anterior platform. That pin really does provide a very, very good way of embedding into the silicone the entire platform, and you can see that if I try and pull this lens out of the jaws, it just will not come. And then the lens fragments are taken out of the incision with the retrieval forceps. And you can see it's a very good purchase of that lens fragment. So again, we will want to go around the left side of the three-piece lens. And once in position, we retract the snare, and we want to go fairly slowly here. So we've just achieved a very nice fracture of the lens, and if necessary you can fracture these into quarters as well, simply by advancing the snare out again, maneuvering it around the quarter and fracturing, or maneuvering it around the half and fracturing it into a quarter. You can virtually cut these into as many pieces as you like, and then reintroduce the retrieval forceps to grab the lens fragments. That concludes this segment on the actual instrumentation. The next segment is going to be Dr. Utrata actually using the devices in surgery to remove a damaged one-piece foldable lens. If you should have any questions, please feel free to contact Rhine Medical at 800-637-4346. Thank you for your attention, and please continue watching the video for the surgical footage from Dr. Utrata.
Removing a torn lens or a lens implant of improper power can be very difficult, especially if the goal is to keep the incision size small. This is the Rhine instrument with a snare. This gives an instrument that has a minimal amount of metal in the eye, minimum amount of bulk in the eye, and this is very effective. The important thing is to use abundant amounts of viscoelastic and to properly position the torn lens so that the snare can be passed around it, and the loop needs to be engaged at the greatest part of the curvature if possible, so that the pieces are small enough to remove. Here the pieces are somewhat unequal, but this really is not crucial. The second instrument has two platforms with ridges. One side has a pin and the other side has a hole, and this gives a very firm grasp possible on the fragments which are to be removed, as you can see here. Again, keep the area filled with viscoelastic to protect the surfaces of the eye, and also to properly position the fragments so that it can be readily removed. Usually the plate haptic will follow right along with the optic and doesn't really cause a problem, even if it's larger than the incision size. Right after the removal, the lens can be implanted again, and this can be done with a sutureless technique.